What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great day as always. Today we're going to go over tips to make your SCX24 just a little bit wider, and then we're going to go over why you might want a wider stance on your SCX24. So as you can see, our SCX24 Gladiator is very, very wide. Now, some of the reasons you might want a wider stance can include being more stable on side hill climbs and different off-camber situations, a better setup for flex, and all around a much more aggressive look. Now, actually, I do have a Jeep Wrangler in the driveway that is very wide, and I can show you guys some real world examples of why you would want a wider stance when off-roading. So this is my 2008 Jeep Wrangler, and here are some examples to where having a wide stance saved me from rolling over on the trails. So as you can see, we were a little off-cambered, all flexed up on the driver's side. This one's not on the trail, but it shows you how much more stable it is. So now let's go over the first tip. So for starters, the cheapest and easiest way to get a slightly wider stance would be these Hex Extensions. Now what they're going to do is essentially be a wheel spacer, which is going to push them out just a little bit. You can get these for $9 to probably $20. Now I do have a good set that I actually use and recommend, linked down below in our Amazon store. I would definitely recommend picking those up as they are probably the cheapest option to getting a little bit wider stance on your rig. So if some brass hex extensions aren't really your thing and you want to get a little more in-depth with your build, you can actually pick up some aftermarket housings that are wider than the factory housing. A lot of aftermarket housings are actually a lot wider because this is a thing that most people want on their rig, just to be a little bit wider. Plus, having a metal housing is a huge plus. It adds unsprung weight to your rig, which also makes it harder to flip over because your center of gravity is much, much lower. You basically want as much weight as possible on the axles and as little as possible on the frame and on the body and things of that nature. That'll help it be a lot harder to roll over on the course. For example, if you're sitting like this, you don't want it to flip over. However, a stock SCX24 would probably flip over in this situation. Now that you've gone ahead and got yourself some brass hex extensions or some wider axles, wheels are a phenomenal way of adding some extra width to your rig. So there's a ton of different wheel options and basically back spacing options for the setup. We got some wider wheels here, and as you can see, they add a ton of width to this thing and they just look phenomenal. I will link some wide wheels down below on the Amazon storefront as well for you guys to check out if that's something that interests you. That is definitely what I would recommend, and if you guys are just getting into this, I would recommend some brass hex extensions, some wheels that poke out a lot farther, and some big tires. That'll do just good enough for you. And in the future, if you did want to upgrade, you could always go ahead and pick up some aftermarket housings that are a lot wider as well. But it's always nice to have a couple extra in stock like this because we all know how this hobby goes. You end up getting one, you build it, and you're like, oh, that's cool, I'm gonna pick up a second one. Then you end up with something like this to where you got a bunch of them. So I would just recommend getting it all. Honestly, that's what I ended up doing in the long run, was buying all this anyway. And most of it's very, very cheap. I think the wheels are like $29, tires are $20, brass hex extensions are $10 to $20. The axles are the expensive part. They're around $100. You can get them for a little bit cheaper, or you get them for quite a bit more actually, but you could pretty much guess around $100. So if you implement any of these three tips, you'll definitely have a wider stance on your rig, and it'll be a lot harder to tip over on the trails. You'll get a ton of performance gain for these simple mods. Honestly, I would say besides like servo, motor, and nice tires, these are the next mods that really would add performance to your rig. It'd help a ton. Plus, with a wider stance, it's a lot easier to get more flex out of your rig because there's just less to hit. And you don't run into issues like hitting the fender, hitting the body quite as easily. This one still does a bit because we haven't trimmed the fenders up at all. Definitely a plan in the future. But you definitely push the tire out just enough to clear pretty much anything you would normally rub on if these tires were pushed in just a little bit more. So I hope this video helped you guys get a little bit wider stance on your SCX24 and get an understanding of why you would want a wider stance. It's definitely something that would be preferable if you're into rock climbing and going a little bit off camber, which is pretty much all the fun stuff if we're being honest. So I definitely recommend this. Like I said, a lot of these products will be linked down below in our storefront on Amazon. That way it's just easier for you guys to find the products that I talk about in these videos. I found that that's the best method to make it pretty much one click and you're at the products. Now, before we wrap up this video, I got some pretty cool news. I went ahead and placed an order for a Little Guy Racing Parts Ripper chassis. If you guys don't know what that is, picture right up here in the corner for you guys. It's sweet. I'm going to paint match this thing to my real life JKU, and we're going to make this thing pretty much the ultimate rock crawler. All we're waiting for at this point is Super 8 axles to come back into stock, which I spoke to them and they said about a week. So we'll probably build the body, then the axles will come. You'll see an episode of building the axles, and then final construction and testing out on our little course here. Our course is far from done. However, it does the job for testing, and I'll be getting a lot more work done on this in the next coming couple days. If you guys didn't see episode 1 of building this course, that would be linked down below as well. As always though, guys, thank you so much for watching these videos. This channel's actually been doing very, very well for a brand new channel. I'm used to making full-size Jeep content over on my main channel, Rocky TV. So if you guys are into full-size Jeeps, go ahead and check that out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.